chuckle a little bit today. The topic of the message today is expressing kindness. I'd appreciate it if you'd express kindness to me today. I've had a massive migraine headache since last Sunday morning, and it has been a full body migraine headache, and complete with throwing up and being freezing cold. We call it a full body migraine. So I'll try to be kind to you and be able to read my notes and focus on them so that you actually get what the Lord has laid on my heart to share with you today. I notice here, two of the words are, love is patient. So I will be appreciating your patience for today. And I promise I'll do my best not to throw up, which is not been something I've been able to promise all day, every day this past week. So may this message remain with you. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. As we discussed last week very briefly, that Valentine's Day has typically been referred to as a day of romance, celebration of romance and romantic love. We're not going to be talking about romantic love today, but we're going to celebrate love. Of course, we all know that we need to celebrate love every day. The first few verses of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the Apostle Paul said, love is more important than spiritual gift. He even says love is more important than knowledge. He even said it is more important than even a willingness to give up our own lives for Christ and the gospel. If we had done and gave up all those things but did not have love, they would amount to nothing. Love is more than emotion. It is more than a sentimental card or a box of chocolates or a bunch of flowers. I've always been allergic to chocolate, so my husband, he lucked out when he got me. He never had to give me a box of Valentine chocolates. I was always a little partial to flowers, but he was really allergic to flowers. We barely had flowers for our wedding. So, there's some good things that come in relationship from some of the strangest things. Very true love is very practical in its demonstration. The Apostle Paul wrote, listen to this, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. This morning, let's focus our attention on the thought, love is kind. Love is kind. While the expression of kindness often goes unnoticed and unrewarded, there are exceptions. I read this interesting illustration a number of years back. There were some construction workers working on a high-rise building across the street from a hospital. As they were working on the third floor, they noticed a little girl standing in the third floor window of the hospital watching them work. One day, they looked across and saw the little girl holding up a poster that said, "My name is Lisa. What are your names?" So the next day, the construction workers came back with some poster board and some magic markers, and they all wrote down their names. My name is Bob. My name is Bill. My name is Harry. How old are you, Lisa? So the next day, the little girl held up a sign that said, "I am 7 years old. How old are you?" Well, this went on for several days, but one day they noticed Lisa wasn't at the window. And she wasn't at her usual space in the window for a couple of days. So at break time, one of the workers called the hospital, and asked for the third floor nurse. He asked if she could tell him anything at all about Lisa. The nurse said that Lisa had taken a turn for the worse and was now in intensive care. So the workers pooled together their money and bought some flowers and a card and wrote a note on it and sent it to Lisa in the intensive care. Several days passed by, and then another sign appeared in the window. Lisa has passed away. Thank you for caring. Now, I can't promise that every single act of kindness will be noticed as with the sign in the window. Sometimes no thank yous are forthcoming. I'm just thinking here, everyone here in this room knows, but I'm going to give a thank you. You don't know those people out there that some days I am hard-pressed to be able to see out of my glasses. So I was just asking today, do I get my fingers on my eyeballs and my eyeballs get messed up? Donna here, every Sunday, sometimes several times on a Sunday, cleans my glasses. My hands don't work properly, and getting my glasses clean is always a challenge. So I thank Donna Lemon. She is partly responsible for every message that I give, because without her help, and some other ladies here out on occasion when Donna has not been here or whatever. You get to see what I'm saying, because otherwise anybody guess what you would be, what I would be remembering. So thank you, Donna Lemon, for kindness. I can't promise every act of kindness will go noticed, as with the sign in the window for that little girl. But it has gone, that particular act of kindness has gone down in history. Now all kinds of people have been made aware of it. Not just from this pastor, but from sources that have given out illustrations for pastors to use. In fact, kindness may even sometimes cost you something and require sacrifices on your part. So with that in mind, let's look at the couple of examples of kindness in God's Word. Not the couple. Let's look at a couple of examples. There are many of them. The ones we're going to look at right now are in Luke chapter 8, verses 40 to 56. In this passage we see that Jesus was showing kindness to two people who are entirely different. One is a man and the other is a woman. One is an outcast, poor and unknown, and the other is a rich, influential leader, a ruler and a leader in the synagogue. Yet Jesus treats both of them with great kindness. At the time of these events, Jesus was at the height of his popularity. People respected him as a healer and as a teacher, and the crowds were swarming around him wherever he went. In fact, there were times when Jesus had to go off in secret to get time to rest and to pray. But despite the pressures of popularity, despite the crowds consistently pushing in around him, despite all the demands on his time, Jesus, in his kindness, stopped everything he was doing to help them. And he stopped everything to meet their needs. I want to quickly look at some ways Jesus showed kindness to these two individuals, because those are the ways that we need to show kindness today. We need to learn to show kindness. He paid attention to them and to their needs. Luke chapter 8, verses 40 to 42 says, "Now when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. "Please, Jesus, can you come? My daughter is dying." Whether these were predetermined or unexpected events for Jesus From the point of view of the disciple and those around him, they would have been perceived as unexpected intrusions into the day. But as soon as Jairus came and told him about his daughter, Jesus set out with the Father. Immediately. He didn't say, well, let me get my day timer out and check what where am I supposed to be? He said he just immediately he went out. As soon as Jairus came and told him about his daughter, Jesus set out with the Father. It would have been apparent to those who were witnesses to this event that Jesus immediately changed direction and started for the ruler's house, because this little girl's situation was much more pressing than whatever else he had scheduled. How well do you handle perceived interruption? Some people work best when they can concentrate on one thing and see it to completion. They do not normally do 2 or 3 things well at the same time. So if they're concentrating and someone interrupts them, they consider it an intrusion because they do not normally handle interruptions well. This is just a little extra I'm going to put in here. My daughter and I were talking about this. Well, we've been talking about this the last few weeks for a variety of reasons. One of which is that both my daughter Andrea and I both have hyperactive disorder. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to get the next thing done. What's the most important here? And then you could also say, how many most important things can we get done now? Yeah. So some people have trouble getting the next thing done, and other people have trouble getting anything done because they don't want to get anything done. So when you have hyperactive disorder, sometimes we could stand up on the rooftop and say, praise the Lord, we got something done today. Maybe you don't have problems like that. And sometimes you just need to be thankful, grateful, and appreciative and kind to people who do have some sort of an issue like that. Even a smile, a pat on the back. Yeah, they got something done. May have not been the way you got it done, but they got something done. Now, I'm not saying all this just to get a pat on the back for myself and my daughter. Let God be the one to show you ways to be kind to someone else. Jesus paid attention to Jairus and responded to the need as it was presented. But this was not the only interruption. Jesus was flexible and kind enough to pause to meet another one need as they were on their way to the Jewish ruler's house. Luke chapter 8, verses 43 to 46 says, "And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. But no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped." "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Can't you just hear Peter saying this? "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power had gone out from me." There were crowds of people surrounding them, and everyone was in a hurry. Yet Jesus was able to differentiate between the touch of the crowd and the personal touch of the woman who needed his help. Can't you just picture Peter saying, "Jesus, how could you ever expect to figure out who touched you? That's impossible." Can't you just picture it? Have you ever made a phone call or got a machine which said, "If you want Jim, press 1. For Nancy, press 3. Or if you need Jake, press 5. Don't you get almost excited when you actually get a name that you can pick? It can almost become an exciting event when you get a warm body on the other end of the phone. Our world has become very impersonal. But Jesus took time to stop in the midst of the crowd to give a woman his personal attention, as though she was the only one there. He expressed kindness by affirming her. He expressed kindness by affirming her, as it says in Luke chapter 8, verses 47 to 48. And I quote, "Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been healed instantly. Then he said to her, 'Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace.'" As a result of her disease, this woman was considered an outcast in her society. A woman shedding blood was treated just like a leper. And because of her disease, she had been separated from her family for a long time. Her self-esteem was likely as low as it could possibly ever be. Jesus responded to her by affirming her through listening to her story of woe. It is likely Luke gave us the condensed version of the account of what happened that day. She had 12 years of history to tell, and this may have been the first time ever that anyone had paid attention to her for a very long time. Imagine she poured out her whole heart, and Jesus listened. By listening to her, by looking in her face, by clinging to her every word, he affirmed her. As followers of Jesus, if we desire to be more like him, we need to be a good listener. A good listener. The standard greeting in our society is, "Hi, how are you?" And most people tend to expect what I call the politically correct answer. "Hi, how are you?" Fine. We get caught off guard when someone really tells us how they feel, and if it happens very often, generally most people try to find ways to avoid that person. Oh, don't ask how they're doing. They might tell you and you're going to be here for at least half an hour. Or you're going to feel real bad about it. Sometimes the politically correct is the way to go. That's an awkward situation. You almost need to say the politically correct and pray ahead, "Lord, I'm really not lying. What else am I supposed to say?" So, it's an awkward situation that we can find ourselves in at times. Jesus affirmed the woman that day, not only by what he did, but also by what he said to her. "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." What an affirmation! As an outcast, she could not fellowship with other people and had not known the kindness and human touch for so long. This act of kindness changed and transformed her life. Jesus expressed kindness through understanding. Luke chapter 8, verses 49 to 56 says, while Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," they said. He said, "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's mother and father. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by her hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished. But he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. In front of a great crowd of people, Jesus had declared the daughter was just sleeping, and he had been ridiculed for his comments. It would have been easy to present the girl to that group alive and to gloat over the situation, but instead, Jesus told the parent not to say anything. He was more concerned about how the parent felt than being concerned about getting even or being right. Jesus did not want to embarrass those who had gathered to mourn with the family. He had understood that the people who had responded were responding out of grief. He did not want to even get even with them because of their harsh ridicule and mocking. That speaks volumes about his loving kindness and teaches us how we are to respond to each other also. Don't be always ready to want to come across as being correct. Some years back, there was a wonderful woman who attended this congregation. Many of you know her. I imagine, Evelyn, I can just picture you laughing when I mention the name of Elva Ritchie. Yep, there's a laugh. She used to walk the hall of the Dufferin Oaks Senior Citizens Home. She was in her 80s when we came here, when my husband and I came here. And she was a bundle of love wrapped up in a little body that was always on the go. I remember one time I had to go over to there and get a gift for somebody. They contacted me and asked me to go over there to get a gift, and I asked, where do I find it? Oh, and that's how I got to know Elva. Turns out, not only did she help to run the place, she ran the place. And the Dufferin Oaks Senior Home was a very large establishment, and I couldn't believe it when I got over there. She organized it all. She ordered the gift for the gift shop, and she organized all the volunteers, and she just, if you needed anything at the Dufferin Oaks, just ask for Elva Ritchie. If she doesn't know where it is, she'll know where it is. She'll find it out right quickly. Every day she would visit there at the Oaks. I used to chuckle when she would say, I gotta go and help feed the old people. Do you remember her saying that, Evelyn? I gotta go help feed the old people. She would come by each day to feed her much younger sister. And she would feed her sister every day. She would often be feeding 2 or 3 seniors at the same time. she would be helping these old people. You would find Elva pushing wheelchairs, lending an arm to someone who was unstable on their feet, picking things up off the floor for older people, straightening a pillow. Often she would take people back to their rooms when they seemed to have lost their way in the hall. She would sit and listen carefully to people who needed someone to talk to. And she was patient even when that person had had a stroke and could not get their words out. Elva would read the scriptures and pray with anyone who was willing. And Elva did not limit her acts of kindness to just the residents. She also loved staff and volunteers, doing for them any acts of kindness needed. She was love and kindness in motion. She was God's love and kindness being demonstrated every day. You just knew if anybody needed some kindness, Elva was there demonstrating how to be kind to whomever. And she was in her 80s at the time, and I can't remember exactly how long ago this was that I gave this illustration, but she demonstrated kindness to me so many times. Sometimes I'd say, can I go over and help you with the old people? And I have always had difficulties on certain things, walking and hearing, and I'm almost deaf, and she would have to try to talk to me, and she would be telling, we're sitting and talking to somebody, and I could never hear what the other person was saying, and she would be sitting there being kind to me, demonstrating what this other person was. I didn't ever know if she was ministering to me or if she was ministering to these old people, or was I the old person? She would have to be reaching down to the floor and picking things up for me, and sometimes giving me an arm to get me down the hallway. And so I learned partly through her that you can be kind to anybody, doesn't matter how old they are. I challenge you today to be a living example of God's love and kindness. If physical limitations don't allow you to be up and doing as Elva was, you can still smile. You can still smile. And sometimes that is exactly what another person needs to lift their spirit, to lift their heart. A smile or a pat on the back. Mostly a smile. 'Cause that can also lift their spirit. It can be an act of kindness. Being patient and not demanding and grouchy can be an act of kindness toward the staff and volunteers even in a grocery store, even giving a thank you to a person who hands something down for you from a shelf. Do you realize, you ever thought, I wonder what the average number of short people is and tall people. It just seems that some of us are forever needing someone just a little taller to reach something down from up the top shelf. But then on the other hand, the short people are there for the person who needs somebody a little shorter, so that they can not have to be getting down on their hands and knees to get stuff off the floor, because you got one of those short people down there that can pick things up. So kindness comes at the exact time you need it. So always ask the Lord to keep you on the lookout for a time that you can be kind. Time that you can be kind. And patient. And not demanding. And not grouchy. Just putting an arm around someone's shoulder. And being there for them when they're in pain, or in confusion, or in grief, is an act of kindness and love. May you be thought of as being one who daily demonstrates love and kindness. And you don't have to have Valentine's Day. You don't have to have a heart that says forever yours. Love doesn't have to cost you anything, but just be a demonstration of what is going on in the inside. So, as we draw this Valentine's weekend to a close, may Valentine's always be in your heart, on display. Not on display in a bragging type of a way, but in a way where God says, demonstrate love as being a part of His love. And the song we're going to sing today for ending this service is Make Me a Blessing. I know we sang that a week or two back, but you know what? You can be made a blessing 365 days a year, and you could go on New Year's, not New Year's, leap year. You can actually be made a blessing on the 366 days of the year. Is that 366 days of the year? That's leap year, right? So, make me a blessing to someone today.